Hey guys, raise your hand if that was one too many Taylor Swift songs this weekend. Thank you. Okay, I'm guessing that everybody in here is familiar with the story of the woman at the well, where Jesus goes up and is talking to the Samaritan woman. And right away, I'm just going to read from you from John chapter 4. A woman of Samaria came to draw water. Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink." His disciples had gone into the town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "How can you, a Jew, ask me, a Samaritan woman, for a drink?" For Jews use nothing in common with Samaritans. Wow, Jews use nothing in common with Samaritans. So totally different culture. The Samaritans and the Jews, they weren't friends. They didn't like each other, didn't understand each other, didn't really want to understand each other, just not pals, right? Different cultures. They spoke the same language, but maybe they didn't really speak the same language. Same words, but didn't necessarily always mean the same thing, right? A couple years ago, I was talking to a parent of a teenager who was telling me a story. She was telling me I was at Mass one day, and I saw this teen get a couple rows in front of me at Mass, and he had the baggy jeans and the black t-shirt and the shaggy hair, and my first thought was, what are you doing here? And I'm like, my blood is starting to boil, like, really? This is the teen you don't want at church? And I started to think, I wonder who she's talking about, because I probably know the kid. And then she said, and then you came up to him, and you kind of gave him the little side elbow, and he obviously knew you and was glad to see you. And after Mass, you guys were talking, and I'm like, okay, now I really want to know who it is. But no, it's probably like one of any guy in my youth group, because that's kind of normal, right? But then her point in that was, she started with thinking, what's this kid doing there? And her end result was, I'm glad that you went up and spoke to him and that you were there to be there, because I didn't expect to see this kid at Mass. It's the same, it's that kind of thing that we have certain expectations of teens, right? Or certain expectations of people, of who's going to be at Mass, who's going to sit in the pews. And Father Mike said it yesterday, our goal is not the best dressed or the well-behaved, right? Our goal is to lead these teens to Christ. Our goals are lofty, right? We're shooting for the stars on this one, and it's to lead them to Christ, right? So if we're going to follow Christ's example, we're going to talk to those teens that maybe we don't speak the same language. Because this kid, let's call him Brian, I probably didn't listen to the same music as him, didn't read the same magazines, watch the same TV shows, but it was my role to lead him to Christ, right? So welcome him in church, invite him, he's a part of things. Okay, so it's our goal, it's our role to overcome those cultural differences. Our teens are growing up in a culture where it's different now, where they're supposed to ask questions about what to believe in. They're supposed to be seeking, they're supposed to be searching maybe a little bit more than you and I did when we were growing up. When I was growing up, we just went to Mass on Sunday, and that was it. And we didn't really ask the questions. It just wasn't really allowed in my school, in my house, with my parents. It was, you're living under my roof. This is the rule. End of the story, right? It's not necessarily how it works right now all the time. Maybe it does for my kids, but maybe I'm mean. I don't know. Disrespectful teens, when I think of disrespectful teens, I often think of confirmation retreats, because I think of kids that don't necessarily want to be there, right? And I always remember before confirmation retreat, I was gathering with the core team, and we were planning the day, and one of the core members was there. I was like, I can't stand confirmation retreats. They're just a pain in the butt. The kids don't want to be there. They're just not into it. Why do we even make them do this? And I said, why don't you ask them? Why don't you ask them why they don't want to be here? What's going on in their lives? Why don't you do that? So that's number one when we're dealing with disrespectful teens, ask questions. And you know what? That core member asked a teen that day who said very clearly in small group, I don't want to be here. Why don't you want to be here? Well, I don't understand why I have to be here. We haven't gone to Mass since, I don't remember. I don't think we've ever been to Mass. Well, no wonder he doesn't want to be there, right? Now, that doesn't mean it's, oh, okay, great, that's nice. We'll just play nice today and get along, right? No, that's not what we're doing. But it's ask questions. It's listen to their stories. And here's a key thing. Sometimes we ask teens a question, and then as they're talking, we think we're really smart. So we're going to come up with our response in our head to have a big theological answer to their question, right? Or to be able to respond and prove them wrong and say, see, I'm right because you should go to church because, you know what? How about we just really listen? That we have two of these, right? Let's use those and authentically listen to those teens' stories. Because the next step after we listen isn't necessarily to respond and prove them wrong, but it's to challenge them a little bit, right? It's to challenge them into, Apparently sumo wrestling. No, it's to challenge teens into, okay, we're here. For this whole weekend, we're going to be pals, all right? You might not be my pal, but I'm going to be your pal, okay? Let's make the best of this whole thing. I really want to invite you to enter into the whole weekend. I really want to invite you to commit and be involved and make the best of this whole thing. And you know what? If you're here, and I'm going to talk about Jesus, and I want you to meet Jesus, I'd really like for you to meet Jesus. And if after the weekend you decide, Jesus and I, we're just not going to make it, you know what, I'm going to pray for you, and that's not okay. But how about you just give me that? How about you just this weekend, you try to say hi to my friend Jesus that I'm going to introduce you to. Sometimes throughout the weekend, we have to really challenge people. We have to really call people out on their behavior, call people out on what's going on. A couple years ago at a confirmation retreat, I had a teen, and this was like Mr. Tough Guy. When I say Mr. Tough Guy, like Mr. Tough, he did MMA, mixed martial arts, all right? This guy was awesome. He was hard around the edges, real rough guy, and just the core team just knew it was going to be abrasive all weekend, where this is going to be a problem. And I was like, let's stop. Slow it down. Let's make the decision right now. How are we going to treat this teen this weekend? Are we going to be antagonistic? Are we going to be all over this kid about everything? Because I'll be honest, when I was new in youth ministry and I had those kids at retreats that didn't want to be there, my reaction was to snap back at them, right? To lash out, to try to put them in their place, get them quiet. Just sit there and be nice and get you through the weekend, and then we don't ever have to see each other again. We can do that. That's an option. Or we can just love them. We can just keep on loving them. We can sit down, we can learn his name, we can hear his story, we can try to get why he's so rough around the edges. We can try to understand some of those difficulties. We can just walk with him over the course of the weekend. On Saturday night of that retreat weekend, we had a night of adoration, reconciliation. He went to reconciliation. He said it was the first time he had gone since his first reconciliation. And he came up to me, and he came up to every single core member individually, and he apologized. Said, I'm sorry for how I acted earlier this weekend. Thank you for introducing me to Jesus. That's all we wanted to do, is get ourselves out of the way. So we just loved him. The priest came in and just gave him the grace. Just was that fountain of grace for the teen. And he met Christ. It was just an awesome, awesome way to witness that we made that choice. We could be antagonistic, or we could just love him, right? So we're asking questions, we're listening, we're challenging and inviting. Sometimes we're calling them out. We're also affirming their value. As Tricia said, we're learning their names because names are important. They identify people. And I'll be honest, this has been a struggle for me because I have 5 kids. I don't think I've ever gotten their names right, ever. Wait, no, I take that back. I always get my son's name right because I only have one son, and he's got 5 moms. Okay? But the other 4, I don't get their names right. But my point is, we try. We do our best to learn the names. And sometimes I struggle with this, and sometimes teens would know that I'm forgetting their names, but they know that I'm trying and I'm doing my best and that they're important. And even though I might walk up to a teen and I might try to remember her name and get it wrong, but I'll remember 3 other things about her: what school she goes to, what sport she's in, what her favorite subject is. I don't know what that name thing, just sometimes in my brain, I think it's the gray hair. I don't know. But that's one of our big efforts. We have to affirm their value and knowing who they are, their identity. Our name is part of our identity, right? When you hear your name, you look. Just like if somebody says Mom, half the room is going to turn and look. Okay? But that's part of our identity. That's part of who we are. So affirming their value, but also remembering their stories. That if we've listened to their stories, we're going to remember them. And we're going to bring that up, and we're going to continue to invite and welcome. Okay? And that's the last one, is to offer Christ's love. It's not our job to tolerate those teens that are disrespectful. It's not our role, it's not our goal to put up with them, to endure them throughout the course of the weekend. It's our goal to offer Christ's love to them. As we did to that teen who was involved in mixed martial arts, we offered him Christ's love. We showed him, we just want to love you, and Christ wants to love you all the more. And we're just trying to do that on behalf of Christ, right? Because when Christ interacted with the woman at the well, when she said, "Who are you? Why are you talking to me? You're not supposed to talk to me." He didn't just say, "Oh, all right, I'm just going to walk away now." No. He had a conversation with her, right? And at the end of that conversation, the woman left her jar and went into town and said to the people, "Come see a man who told me everything I have done. Could he be the Messiah?" Let's introduce these teens. Let's love them into meeting the Messiah.